Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Front Page Fitness. This is, what is it, episode 21, I think, Lauren? Something like that?
21.
Yeah, 21. I'm still Dr.
Old
Eric
enough to
Trexler.
drink.
Ooh, I gave myself a PhD this time. I'm here joined by the Dr. Lauren Colenso Semple. And Lauren was texting me all weekend. I couldn't get a moment's peace.
That's true.
Basically, what happened was she was texting me all Thursday because she was worried. She was nervous. Duke's offense was getting off to a slow start. But in the second half, passing game got moving, ended up pulling away for a very comfortable win. Then on Saturday morning, she says, "Can you believe that Lee Corso picked Florida State over Alabama? The joke is on her." Florida State pulls out the huge upset. And she told me she thought Ohio State, Texas was going to be a defensive battle, but even she admitted she had no idea that Matt Patricia's defense would shut down Arch Manning so aggressively in the first three quarters, such that the fourth quarter they got things rolling, but it was too little too late. But other than that, Lauren, how was your weekend?
What?
Other than that, how was your weekend?
Yeah, I do not authorize football-related discussions on this podcast. There was one request, I shut it down immediately, so stop it.
Well, it's week one, so basically we've got like a 7-month off season built up of enthusiasm. So that is my one little college football rant until something truly groundbreaking happens, and then I'll chime in again. But we do have very important business to cover.
Well, I have my own sports update because
Interesting. Unexpected.
So Paul, my husband, and I have been a part of a very, very exclusive, high-level cornhole tournament all summer. I'm the red team. It has been very competitive, and sadly, it's coming to an end because, it's going to start getting darker, it's going to start getting colder, but we made a homemade cornhole situation, and it's been a very good time, and the tournament has just been the two of us playing in our yard. But highly recommend cornhole. It's a good time.
Yeah, it's quite a pastime. Have you gotten pretty good at it so far?
I have. We started with bocce, but bocce got really boring because our yard is fairly small, so it just feels repetitive because you can't change the course. When we were visiting my parents down in New Hampshire, they have a larger yard with some dips and divots and stuff, so it felt more exciting. But we did challenge my parents, and I thought, we've been playing for weeks, right? We're gonna crush it. My mom has no accuracy whatsoever. She's the least athletic person, and that wasn't the case. They won every time. Disappointing.
That is very disappointing, and I'm feeling a wave of disappointment right now because I feel very self-conscious. This sounds like a very lovely thing to do, and I'm realizing I need to incorporate some more enjoyable leisure time activities into my life. So I might have to give cornhole. I might move that up the list, especially as the weather is cooling down. Things are really nice. That's got my gears turning. So
Yeah, you can just go outside, have a beverage, enjoy the weather, play some cornhole. And I used to hate it because I was really terrible, but you play for like a couple weekends in a row and you get pretty good.
yeah, there was a guy, I remember this guy. He was on like the maintenance crew of my high school, and he was good enough at cornhole that everyone knew he was good at cornhole. Like, I don't know anything else about this man. It was a very large high school with a tremendously large staff. But this guy had like a side business where he made the boards and would like sell them. And it was one of those things. There was some kind of school event where there was cornhole, and this man like could not miss. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Like, there are some people with cornhole, when you get into like the high level tournaments, it's like the only times they actually miss is when they strategically intend to, if they're like trying to block something. Like it was
Right.
It's like if you've ever watched competitive pool players, when like whoever breaks the rack, like will often just the other person will not get a chance to play. They'll just make all the balls and then say, "Oh, that was a fun game." But yeah, it's really scary with some of those like games of skill, like billiards and things like that. How
Darts
remarkably,
is another one.
Oh, darts, yeah. People play darts. It's just like anytime they want a triple 20, it's theirs. Yeah, it's crazy how good you can get at that with an unreasonable amount of focus. So I hope to see you on the pro circuit someday, and I believe in you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, diving into business here. Now that we had a lengthy and vibrant sports segment, I'm really happy to see that. We've been known on this show to talk about a Netflix documentary or two, specifically two. Last week we talked about The Biggest Loser. Before that, we talked about the very odd tale of the Liver King, which gets honored by the day.
And
But
before that, we talked about that woman who faked cancer and sold that nutrition app.
we did indeed. I blocked that out of my mind because that was the most impactful and most unpleasant of the documentary stories we discussed. And I didn't watch it, which I'm very happy that I didn't. But we've got one on the outline here. This is one I've never even heard of. It's on Netflix, and it's called Unknown Number: The High School Catfish. So what in the world do we have here?
So this has nothing to do with fitness, but given the theme of Netflix documentaries and that, we span many topics, right? We aren't just a fitness podcast. We talk culinary insights. We talk fashion, and we review Netflix documentaries. So I stumbled across this because it was recommended, as Netflix does, trying to make you watch more of their shows. And this is a story about, it's about bullying online in high school, which is not a fun topic, but I stuck with it because it's a relatively short documentary. And ultimately, it's these 13, 14-year-old kids. They're a couple, and they both start receiving these really, really aggressive, disgusting text messages about, why your boyfriend hates you, he's going to break up with you, a lot that are like really gross and sexual in nature, and then some very aggressive you should kill yourself type text messages. Very, very disturbing. Anyway, you don't really know where this is going, and then at one point you think, is she sending them to herself? Is he sending them to the both of them? And then it's like, oh, a grand reveal. There's somebody that she was on a basketball team with in school, and they're competitors, and she has a crush on her boyfriend. Obviously, it's her. Turns out, spoiler alert, it was the girl's mom.
Really?
Really.
So she didn't like the boyfriend being in the picture? Is that the thing? Or was she just like completely deranged?
Like, it turns out she'd been fired from her job and had been lying about it to her family. And so instead of going to work every day, she was like going to a coffee shop and sending bizarre text messages from unknown numbers and creating these really aggressive memes that were like shaming her daughter and bullying her daughter. And it was highly disturbing, and very shocking. It was definitely the plot twist I was not expecting.
Yeah, I had a bit of a career transition a couple of years ago, and I thought about doing that. But
Who were you going to cyberbully?
That's the thing. I never got far enough along to really flesh out. People have said in my life that I lack follow through, and that was another instance where I had this ambitious goal and I failed to really drive it home and work out all the details. So
probably for the best, because it's a crime.
Right. Yeah. So instead, I got back into academia. So it was like 1A, 1B for my plans, and I couldn't really figure out all the details for plan A. So
well, you always have it in your back pocket for the future.
yeah, it's a low barrier to entry if you really stick to it. So I could totally do that in the future. But this reminds me, I actually, oddly enough, watched a fully different Netflix documentary about a catfishing scandal. So Lauren, if you're into catfishing and you can somehow find a way to pinch your nose and pretend that it's not about college football, there is a Netflix documentary about a football player named, oh God, what was his name? It's blanking. It'll come back to me eventually. Mante Te'o was some.
Oh, I've seen that.
Oh, you saw that one?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, that one was insane. So even you could get past the college football elements, and
I did.
I was watching it because I remember that whole scandal happening in real time. Like I was locked into college football at the time. I knew all the main characters, or so I thought. And so I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm first of all, it was one of those realizations where you realize you're so old that there are now documentaries from that thing that happened a long time ago, and you're like, oh God, I remember that.
Yeah.
Like so that's my first time of having that. Um, but anyway, I watched it thinking it would just kind of rehash old memories of what I thought I understood about the thing. But it was fundamentally a different story than I remembered because like the media kind of presentation of it in real time really missed a lot of the details, or I guess they weren't known yet at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a very strange tale at the time. It got even stranger as the years as the years passed. And yeah, it was a captivating story of a very high profile catfishing situation. And I was watching it, like I said, just because I was like, oh, I remember all this stuff. And my wife was like glued to it. She just like happened to be around when I started watching it, and she couldn't look away. So, yeah, if the catfishing genre is one that intrigues you, that is definitely one to catch. And honestly, that one was sad. That one, like,
Yeah.
I ended up really feeling bad. It was a yeah, not a fun story, which is typically how it goes with catfishing. By the way, there's very few catfishing
Happy
stories
endings.
that end up like a happy ending, and it's very wholesome, and everyone's walks away really pleasant, really happy with a pleasant outcome there. But yeah, so unknown number, the high school catfish. If you're looking for a new documentary, that's one. Do you remember the name of the Manti Te'o one? It was
No,
I
that's a
think
couple years old.
yeah, it was a couple years old. But if you look on
If you
Netflix,
look it up, yeah.
the search algorithms are good. You shouldn't have too much trouble finding it.
I feel like this new wave of people having relationships with Chat GPT is a way of self catfishing.
I've seen so many incredible stories about that. And it does like it's part intriguing, it's part sad. It's usually like really sad. Yeah, I think there was a point somewhere around 1994 where we perfected technology. Everything since has just been a crash course with chaos and disappointment. And catfish stories are certainly no exception. They're a great example of that. But what that was kind of to me one of the funniest things about, or not the funniest, but one of the things that jumped out to me about the Manti Te'o catfishing situation was this was happening maybe in the like I don't know what was it like 2012, 13ish kind of range, something like
Something like
that.
that. Yeah, it was early days for but when that MTV show came out probably earlier than that, don't you think?
I don't know. I'd have to fact check that. If you can fact check that on the fly, I'd be highly interested to figure out when that show came out. But it was really interesting because I think, one of the things that came through in that documentary were that Manti Te'o lived like a pretty sheltered life, it seemed. Kind of
Yeah.
family, football, faith, education, rinse and repeat. So it's possible that, that show didn't quite get to him, but it's certainly the idea of catfishing it didn't seem to be as widely culturally understood. So you could see a scenario in his story where he kind of got sucked into this like first wave of online deception, and these kind of, social media was just getting kind of big-ish. Like MySpace was still kind of a thing, transitioning more into Facebook. Nobody was using I don't think Instagram existed. At least it hadn't been really acquired and grown at that point. So it was kind of early days social media, and it was still early enough you could walk into that shocking like, oh my God, I cannot believe that this is not a real person. And so that was like the old generation early days catfishing. And like you said, Lauren, it's interesting as technology has changed. Now there's like a fundamentally different type of counterfeit relationship out there now that now that those chatbots are becoming intimate to those who wish to pursue that. Lauren, what's our fact check? How do we?
So it looks like the incident was kind of 2013 forward.
Mm-hmm.
And the Catfish TV show aired was released November 2013, but I think the TV show was preceded by a documentary by that
Yeah.
creator that was about his own catfishing experience.
Yeah. So like
Millennials will know.
if Manti was like chronically online, he would have had a decent idea of catfishing like existing, but yeah,
Maybe, but I feel like it didn't become that mainstream.
yeah, no, I
You know,
agree. Yeah, so
like I don't think I knew about it when it first came out.
yeah, so yeah, he walked right into a net. And honestly, the thing that jumped out to me about that documentary was catfishing is never done in a way that is wholesome and transparent, but there were elements of that story that were downright diabolical. Like I didn't really understand the depth of the like insanity that went into pulling off like one in a million schemes to keep the lie going. It truly, honestly, was just like a baffling experience. I encourage you to watch that documentary if you're at all intrigued by that. And also, I'm going to go out on a limb, Lauren. I don't care if this gets me canceled. I'm just going to say it. Don't catfish people. I'm officially coming out as saying catfishing is bad and you shouldn't do it. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair blanket statement to make. I'll
All
co-sign.
right. Lauren, let's get into some health stuff. Why don't we do
Let's
that?
do it.
So,
Sure.
our dear friends in Europe, using the law to infringe upon rights and freedoms as they like to do. So we got a story from your old stomping grounds, the New York Post. It says, why gel nail polish is banned in Europe starting today, but not in the United States. This is always a popular genre of health slash fitness slash nutrition debate. Whenever you hear, hey, we're eating this in America, but it's banned over there, usually a lot of people use that as an opportunity to sound the alarms and scare the crap out of you. So, Lauren, should I be terrified with all the gel nail polish I've been using?
Well, we've talked about how we shouldn't be sleeping in our earrings, how we should be cautious about whole talks,
Well,
regular
I
Coke.
stand by that. We should be cautious about that.
So,
Judicious. Use
we
it
just want to
judiciously.
introduce new examples, new science. There is science here. Do you know what gel nail polish is?
I think so. I think I've seen nail polish that looks to be of a gelatinous consistency upon application, which then dries to like a shiny. It looks like it's kind of globbed on almost.
Yeah, so the difference between regular nail polish and gel is that after you put on a gel nail polish, you put it under a UV light and it hardens, and so you don't have to wait for it to dry and it lasts longer.
Really?
So,
So how do you do that at
the
home? You have to get a UV light?
yes,
Okay.
most people do it at a nail salon,
Okay.
but you can do it at home, and many people did during COVID.
I was not aware of this. Believe it
There
or
you go.
not.
The more you know. Because otherwise, without that, it chips really easily.
Mm-hmm.
So this chips less easily. There is an ingredient in a lot of the gel nail polishes that has been banned. So it's not all gel nail polish, it's gel nail polish containing this ingredient. And they're saying that it can cause fertility issues and affect reproductive health. Turns out this is based in rodent research where the animals were consuming this ingredient.
Yeah.
So they weren't actually having it applied topically.
So they're
They
little
were.
tiny toenails?
I really was hoping that there was going to be a study on like rodent pedicures, but that didn't
Yeah.
exist.
I saw a poster in one of the hallways around here, since I work in like a very primate and like animal focused building over there. And they had basically rigged up an experiment. I think they gave squirrels fingernails or something. They like there's some kind of thing where they took an animal that normally doesn't have fingernails, and they gave them like fake fingernails to see if it would change how they use their little hands. I forget, it wasn't squirrels, but it was some kind of tiny
Squirrels
cute animal.
definitely have a claw.
Yeah, they have like a claw. I forget the details. I'll have to go find that poster in the basement somewhere, but you get the premise. They were doing essentially these little manicures.
It's like they glued like fake nails
to give them little fake
animal.
fingernails, because they were going to see if it impacted how they actually manipulated their environment. If like, hey,
interesting.
How would you like to have some fingernails and see how that treats you? So, but anyway, go on.
Interesting. I know my dad used to do some primate research, and the monkeys in his lab were incredibly intelligent, as they often are. And he was using them for some auditory research, but they used to like unscrew the bolts and stuff in their cages and store them in the back of their mouths, and then they would escape and like run around the lab. And it was very challenging for the researcher who had to reach into the mouth of this very large primate and try to extract the hardware.
Yeah.
Because they shouldn't keep it there, but they have these kind of pockets in the back of their mouth where they can store food, and they were storing bolts.
Yeah, you reach in the mouth, you may get chomped. That is how that goes. And
you have to have very large gloves.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, for all the folks who recoil at the idea of monkeys and other primates in cages, Lauren texted me about this a few weeks ago or a few days ago. Who knows? I already grilled her and interrogated her about the ethics, and these monkeys were well taken care of. They live a better life than I do by a wide margin. So it was more of a comfortable enclosure type environment.
Yeah, they had TVs and a whole playland.
They got to watch
but
their
at
stories
some
every
point, there
afternoon.
was a locked gate.
Yes, yeah.
So cage is the wrong word.
Yeah.
Apologies.
So I don't want anyone coming at you in the comments, because I already
Yes,
really
you did.
got quite nasty and made a lot of accusations. But the monkeys are in good hands.
Correct.
So what's the verdict here? So we have these rodents. They, instead of wearing the nail polish, they were eating it. It turns out that was a bad plan. And I assume it was probably eaten at like extremely high doses, which is virtually always the case with these types of studies where they try to set upper safety limits. So what's the kind of take
so
on
I
here?
mean, ultimately the government said, well, true, but we're doing it out of an abundance of caution. So these headlines are not necessarily fair, I guess, but as they usually aren't, they're going to be a bit more inflammatory and get people scared to go to the nail salon. I don't think we're there yet. I think we would need a more appropriate trial, whether in rodents or preferably humans, where we actually looked at what's the effect of having this on your nails, because it's not the same as consuming it. So I'm okay with continuing to get my gel nails. I have them. Here you go.
Oh, look at that. You can tell the UV light and everything.
There you go. Very shiny.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about these types of studies is, like, if you think through what would it take for this rodent study to make me concerned? Well, first of all, you're allowed to be concerned about whatever you like. But generally, a life well lived, a very content life, is one in which you concern yourself only about concerning things. Generally speaking, you like to have a good success rate there about delineating about things you should worry about and things you should not. You don't want to miss too much in either direction. So the thing about this is, like, you could wonder, for example, if I had this material on my nails, what is the likelihood that it would actually kind of, for lack of a better term, leach out into, for example, if I was handling food, is it possible that perhaps some of that would leach out into the food I'm eating? What would be the potential downside? Who knows if this actually, I'm sure somebody does, if it gets sealed in with that drying process, or if there's any kind of like surface to surface leaching afterward for if my fingernails are around my mouth and face, So there would be a number of criteria you would ask yourself. Also, the medical ailment suffered by the rodents, was it a type of medical issue that is physiologically comparable to a thing that could happen to a human? Because we have seen well documented instances of, like, for example, I think there was one kind of artificial sweetener that was linked in like one or two studies to a particular type of cancer that only impacts like the fat pad of the paws of a certain kind of mouse or rat. And researchers came out and they're like, there's literally no physiological equivalent condition that could be formed in a human. Like the pathophysiology is so unique to that species that for humans, there's nothing to worry about there. So there's this kind of really long list of things. First of all, there would have to be some mechanism by which I'm somehow consuming this thing that is topically applied. I'd have to be consuming it in a large enough dose scaled to body size. It would have to be inducing a similar physiological health concern. There's all these boxes that you have to check before you start to say, I actually ought to worry about that, or it'd be highly justifiable to worry about that. And what you tend to find is in most cases when you go from rodent research on toxicology or kind of upper limits for safety, trying to translate that over to humans, you rarely check all those boxes. So this is, without looking into any of the research, was a super responsible thing for me to do. Just shoot from the hip, gut feeling. This does tend to be when you wonder, for example, why would the fools in America fail to ban this when the European Union does, for example? A lot of times it just comes down to a committee of scientists saying, I'm just simply not worried that topical exposure in especially where you're going to have it hardened and dried before anyone's like using their hands. Like there's probably just a panel of scientists in America who just said, I'm just not worried about this whatsoever. And you have a slightly more, cautious group of scientists who said, well, I guess we'll just go with it based on these rodent data alone. So
it's sort of like saying, well, I would never consume nail polish remover, acetone based nail polish remover that could be quite toxic in high doses. But can I remove my nail polish with this? Sure. So we need to look at it in context, and then anytime we discuss fertility or reproductive function, referencing rodent data is so misguided because their reproductive cycles are entirely different. And, the definition of fertility or infertility in males and female rodents just simply doesn't translate for a plethora of reasons to the human outcomes that we're concerned about.
Yeah. So it's not to say the rodent research shouldn't be done. It's just that we have to interpret it very, very in a very nuanced manner. And sometimes those rodent studies, which are frankly by design intended to find the level at which rodents basically get sick or are harmed, you can't just view that as a one-to-one correlation with a human. And you have to understand that, like, if you are looking for an upper limit where you are going to find toxicity, more often than not, you will find it. You're gonna find it. So sure. If you're just viewing it as a dichotomous thing, like, was this bad for the rodents or not? Like, the answer in that type of research paradigm is virtually always yes. The question is how much and with what route of administration. So really important to keep that in mind. And Lauren, you alluded to some of these differences when it comes to the reproductive characteristics of rodents versus humans, and various aspects related to fertility. And I think that's probably a good time to make a little pitch here for a recent debate that you had, where you were on the Docs Who Lift podcast by the Nadolski brothers, and you had a head-to-head debate with Stacy Sims about all things female physiology, and specifically as it pertains to training and nutrition. The reason this comes up is one of the things you've mentioned previously is in some cases you've taken issue with some of her stances that seem to be derived from research on perhaps research models that do not have direct application to day-to-day human life. So, for example, rodent research being one of those potential research models. So how did that debate go, and where could people find it if they wish to?
Yeah, you can listen to it on Docs Who Lift. It's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And we both submitted reference lists after the fact. Those are linked in the show notes. I'm sure you didn't listen to it because you're not a very supportive friend. But I can share that it was unfortunately not long enough to, in my view, really hash out a lot of the data-driven disagreements because there was a lot of, oh, I'll send you that, or there is data, or it's not in rodents. But after reviewing the reference list after the fact, I think it would be really helpful to kind of dive in paper by paper even and say, okay, well, does this support the claim and what did they actually measure? Because one of the most concerning things that she said was, I don't like meta-analyses because they lack nuance. And I've never heard a scientist say that before. I've heard scientists criticize particular meta-analyses, we shouldn't have done that. There weren't enough studies, or those populations were too different. It's too early for a meta-analysis. But broadly speaking, meta-analyses are incredibly important for synthesizing the data such that we aren't cherry picking either intentionally or inadvertently.
Yeah, I agree. I've never heard a scientist say that, and especially not one who has wrestled with the major dilemma, which is that in most physiology work, and in most exercise science work, and in most nutrition work, you could argue that we have such small sample sizes chronically as kind of a rule rather than an exception that we can almost never hang our hat on the finding of an individual study. Very rare is the case where we can say, you know what, we have so much confidence that this effect is a good representation of the population level effect that we're good here.
Yeah.
No need to combine similar studies into a meta-analysis and really get the bigger picture. The other thing that I'd have to take issue with is like, I will say a great many meta-analyses do lack nuance, but that is because of decisions made by the meta-analyst. When it comes to making a meta-analysis nuanced, you have every tool in the book. That is simply a decision to not do it in a nuanced way. So luckily, I think especially in recent years, meta-analyses have come a very long way. They're getting much better in quality and nuance and detail. People are really making good use of sensitivity analyses and moderator tests and things of that nature. So all that is to say, it's fair to look at a particular meta-analysis and say, because of these specific decisions that were made, this meta-analysis is not nuanced enough to answer this specific question I have. But broadly speaking, we got to make sure we don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, because meta-analyses are, they're a hobby horse of mine, so I won't go on and on and on about them. But they're one of the best tools we have for informing evidence-based practice in medicine and nutrition and pretty much anything else. All right, Lauren. So we'll look forward to more content on that in the future, potentially. But let's jump into more serious stuff. I'm a researcher that measures energy expenditure. I'd say that's one of my real specialties these days. And so you put a link in here for something called Now Patient, which is a digital health platform and online pharmacy. And you say they've launched a Sexercise calculator. That was not me misspeaking, although late in the evening I do tend to. But this was a Sexercise calculator. So what in the world is this?
So the New York Post did alert me to this. So, credit where credit is due. And they described it as it can double as a sweaty calorie torching workout that leaves you lighter on the scale. Wow. So this telehealth provider has launched a cheeky new Sexercise calculator that reveals exactly how many calories you can expect to burn in every position.
Yeah, and I looked into this, and I'll be blunt. It is a fascinating approach to the calorie calculator. If you've been in the fitness business, you've seen many a calorie calculator. Usually companies will do it for marketing or to, juice their SEO or their website visits. But here we have a number of positions. Be mature, Lauren. A number of positions here, 12 of
And
them.
for the listener, you can go to nowpatient.com/health dash news slash sex dash calculator. We can put the link in there.
Yeah, if I were them, I would have probably tightened up that URL a little bit. But in any case, that's what it is. And there's 12 different positions where you go in and you enter the time spent in each in minutes, and you hit calculate, and it'll tell you, it will estimate how many calories you burned in that prolonged, multi-positioned sexual experience. So one thing that comes to mind, they do, to their credit, they have a little methodology blurb at the bottom saying how they went about doing their stuff here. But here's my concern, Lauren. I think I need to contact them and say, listen, love the content, love the hard-hitting evidence-based calculations. Here's the problem. Are you aware of the constrained energy expenditure model? And are you aware of compensatory changes such that, if we've talked about on the show, if you add 30 minutes of cardio to your day, you might not actually increase your total daily energy expenditure by exactly 30 calories. So then the question is, what do you actually do with this information if you cannot reliably count on it to reflect how your total energy expenditure has changed for the day? That is something they may need to wrestle with, and I'm available if they want to get deep into the weeds of compensatory adjustments and how to translate these into the actual bottom line of calories burnt in total per day. Lauren, do you have any hard-hitting evidence-based commentary on this?
Yeah, I do. Just that you can choose to enter a number of minutes. And so I was really curious about the upper limit on number of minutes spent per position. And they've capped it at 1,000 minutes. If you try to enter anything above 1,000 minutes, then there's no more data. So just beware that if you are engaged in said sexual position for longer than 1,000 minutes, you won't be able to get any reliable data from this website.
So wait a minute. I actually have a legitimate question here, and I'm going to test it on the fly. Let's see. Come on. So this is a major issue, Lauren. I'm glad I did this. I've uncovered this. So I don't want to get too graphic. It's a family show. But many of these positions are not, what's the word I would use? They're not symmetrical. The things being
You
done...
mean both individuals aren't expending the same number of calories?
Yes, they're not doing the same thing. They're not maintaining the same posture. You would expect fundamentally different expenditures because of that.
That's a very good point.
And I just ran a quick calculation, a scientific calculation here, and they just gave a singular number for two completely different. I'll use one that's, it couldn't be a more appropriate term to use on the airwaves. It was called the squat. And it just gave a single number for both individuals engaged here. So I'm starting to really have issues with the credibility, Lauren. I might need to pick up the phone and give them a call.
Yeah. I just also 1,000 minutes.
It's a lot of minutes.
It's a lot of minutes.
I think a web developer, they probably handed this over, gave no instruction whatsoever, and he was like, well, I got to put a limit somewhere, so let's count a few decimal points here. But yeah.
I do have a quote from the New York Post article that I wanted to share, though. Make sure you are fed and hydrated, because to get in a significant workout from sex, you want to aim for the full 30 minutes.
Wow.
This is a quote from Emma Hewitt Johnson, a certified sex educator at Adult Toy Megastore.
And does the Adult Toy Megastore offer that certification course, or was that obtained elsewhere?
It actually doesn't say, where she obtained that certification, but I'm curious as well, because I don't know if there's a sex educator certification. That's another thing that I should definitely look into.
You could add that to your list. You're the certified
And the
wine
Adult
expert.
Toy Megastore, they couldn't find anything. Well, I won't hate.
Yep. It's hey, To each their own. If you've been wondering how many calories you might have been burning and you are not a stickler for detail or accuracy, you know where to go, folks.
We're here to help.
Yes. All right. Let's stick with the New York Post on the concept of energy expenditure. Let's see here. Your title here is Quadrobics. It's not just for furries. So this is, again, I think I mentioned from the New York Post. What exactly is Quadrobics?
Well, we talked about jazzercise. We talked about slashercise.
And by
So,
the way, I got owned. A nice person mentioned that I'm an idiot. Well, they were kind about it, but apparently there's a type of dance called jazz dance for more upbeat
sure.
interpretations of jazz music, and apparently that is often used during jazzercise. So, retractions, apologies, etc.
So, this unconventional style of exercise is apparently gaining traction on social media where people are doing bear crawls, cat leaps, walking, running, and jumping in sort of animal like positions. But it seems that this is a subculture that was initially associated with people who actually like to dress up like animals or at least wear masks. There may or may not be a sexual component to this, but let's just say there's not because I think we're trying to, keep it really PG on this show.
I think that ship sailed, but by all means, we can attenuate the damage.
Well, a Therians, Therians are a
Yeah.
group of people who identify as non-human animals, not to be confused with furries, who are the ones who are dressing up like animals.
Yeah, my understanding is that with furries, the key term there is anthropomorphic animals. So I think furries kind of dress up as like animal characters with humanish characteristics.
Okay.
And I think what I'm getting from the caption here, and this is new to me, so there may be some corrections coming in the future, but it sounds like Therians are a little bit more like by the book. I am indeed a fox, not a fox-like cartoon
Oh,
character.
okay.
But no offense
Okay.
taken. Go on.
Yeah, so it says that it can give you a six pack because it's the New York Post, and so they have to put that in their title about anything fitness related.
Yeah.
But I think this is interesting. You don't have to wear a mask to practice quadrobics, and some of these movements look challenging. I don't think it'll give you a six pack. But hey, bear crawls, crab reaches, beast holds. Go for
Honestly,
it.
you look at some of the pictures in the article, which is what I do rather than read most of the time. And, there are some very athletic movements happening here, things
Yeah.
that certainly engage the core, get you moving in planes of motion that are not typical in your basic, kind of training program. I honestly, from like an exercise perspective, I don't hate it. The idea of doing a little more climbing, a little more, a little bit introducing a little bit of bear crawl into the mix. I don't necessarily hate it. Back when I was a wrestler, that was something that with wrestling, you never know where you're going to find yourself on the mat. So we would get pretty creative about, getting more comfortable in some unconventional movement patterns. So from an exercise perspective, I really don't hate it. If this is something that you find fun and you want to throw into the mix, to me, the vibe I almost get is from some of these still images, you get some kind of elements of parkour, which was big for a while there. When I was wrestling, there was a type of, it was like a dance slash martial art called, I don't know how to pronounce it, capoeira, something like that. I think it's a Brazilian word,
Yep.
where it was, like I said, it was kind of like a non-contact martial arts slash dance that a lot of grapplers and wrestlers would use as a warm-up, which again involved a lot of unconventional movement patterns, often on all fours. So yeah, honestly, it I'm all in. Whether
I'm not
you
wearing the mask.
you don't have to wear the mask, as the New York Post in their
But
hard-hitting
many of these
general.
people are wearing the mask.
That is one thing that I believe will threaten widespread adoption. The one and only thing is that this is a very mask-forward article. I do believe
Animal mask, to
yes,
be clear.
animal mask. I think there is a tail in the mix as well in some of it, but hey, to each their own. If that's what you like, that's what you like. If it, aside from that element of it, which I have no commentary and no perspective whatsoever.
Yep.
If this is a kind of movement that gets you excited, I'm all for it. I like it.
So what I'm not all for is our next segment,
Okay.
which says if we do this for 21 days, our lives will never be the same.
Okay. Yeah. I just opened the video. I see someone who it said something about their fascia and their lymph system,
Yeah,
lymphatic system.
this is gonna burn fat, and drain your lymphatic system and detoxify, and you have to do it in the morning when you wake up and in the evening before bed. And this involves 60 seconds of jumping up and down, like very light bouncing up and down. And you're apparently not allowed to wear a bra based on the woman in this video. And then you swing your arms up and down, and then you kind of hug yourself and do some rotational twists. And this is going to change your life because you are asking the universe to receive your desires. I believe that's my general takeaway. Thoughts?
Well, sorry, was that last part? Was that a quote from the? Who are we asking to receive our desires here?
The universe. You're
Okay,
communicating with the universe while you swing your arms
there you go.
on the what appears to be some kind of private tennis court with a really nice mountainscape in the
That is
background.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Where I want to know where she is. It's
I
this
think
like
it's Sweden.
foggy, misty, meticulously kept athletic field. Just beautiful. But yeah, aside from that, I like that part. I hate everything else. I'm not
Okay.
into it. So I believe I was quite charitable with the last exercise modality. This one, I'm taking a hard turn. The types of movements I'm seeing here would not really stimulate any type of meaningful adaptation at all
Of any kind.
of
Yeah.
any kind of the
Of any
human
kind.
body. I'm not seeing an aerobic component. I'm not seeing a mobility component. I'm not seeing a strength component. There's just nothing to like here other than the beautiful scenic background.
That's right.
Yeah, so I guess the takeaway there is quadrobics would be the go-to.
Yes, preferably maskless, but if given the choice, then we're going quadropics.
Yep, for sure. All right, Lauren, we got an email from a listener,
I did.
Jana. And there's a lot to
I
like
want to
in
say
this.
Jana.
Jana? Okay.
I would say Jana. Yeah.
I'm going to go Jana. Time will tell. I'm sure we'll get a follow-up email.
Let us know.
She was referring back to the last few minutes of episode 18. She has a couple charming cats. If you have a two-cat system like I do at home, I fully support it. But she sent us a picture. First of all, grocery bags completely chock full of flavor-blasted goldfish that she got on sale. I am getting worried. Every time I've bought them over the last 6 months, they have been permanently on sale. And I do think it's one of those advertising scams where that's just the price, but they're going to pretend it's on sale at the price that I'm getting it. So I might need to, if I didn't love the extra cheesy flavor, I may file a class action lawsuit because I do believe that there's some nefarious marketing happening here.
I thought it was just my local grocery store, but it was the same happening when I traveled to certain states in the US. And so I think they just are pushing some global campaign
Yeah, I
of
think
epic
here's what we need to
proportion.
do. Instead of a class action lawsuit for misleading advertising, we need to have a class action movement to just everyone join to promise you won't sue. because I need my flavor blasted goldfish, and I don't want them to be reputationally or financially harmed by any kind of class action event. So everyone, we know what's going on. It's okay. We don't need to make a big stink about it. If they want to pretend that it's on sale when it's not, it's fine. It's still reasonably priced, and we need to make sure they keep selling it. So anyway, there's the bags of the flavor blasted goldfish. She said her cats also love the flavor blasted cheese dust, which I think all cats do. Anything salty, cats will go nuts for. But what's interesting about her cats is they also love spinach. So the reason she sent this is the cats knew that there was some baby spinach leaves hiding in those grocery bags, and they sniffed it out. They got into it and moved some things around and got to the spinach that they so dearly loved. And Lauren, I know that you are a dog owner three times over currently. Is that right? 3 times over, yeah. I am a cat guy. I married someone, and there was an agreement, a package deal. The wife came with a cat. And at first I resisted because I had always historically been a dog guy, but I fell in love with the cat to the extent that I insisted we get another. And now we have 2 cats who brighten my day in every possible way. Even when they're being horrible little demons, they just make me laugh so much. It's like when they're being good, it's great. And then when they're being bad, it's hilarious. So I love these little monsters. And this photo brought me a lot of joy because they are definitely in their monster mode here, terrorizing the grocery haul and getting into their spinach. And that's the other thing about cats, Lauren. If you've never, have you ever lived with cats?
No.
Okay, so they all have anomalous behaviors that could never possibly be explained. And that's across many dimensions of behavior, but it's also particularly true with regards to food. Sometimes they will have these food preferences that you just can't make sense of. And in this case, these are 2 cats that just love spinach. So rarely do you find an obligate carnivore who really has a taste for spinach, but apparently these 2 cats, they just go nuts for it.
Well, for my dogs, it's arugula.
Arugula. See, there's no reason for a dog to be liking arugula.
They love it.
All
celery as well, yeah. They go as crazy for leafy greens as they do for, a goldfish that fell on the floor.
Yeah.
Goldfish cracker, not actual goldfish, to be clear. But yeah, there's something about the greens that they are excited about, and that's good.
Yeah. So, very, very fascinating. That ultimately is the joy of pet ownership, is just having these weird little creatures with inexplicable quirks and idiosyncrasies and weirdness that all you can do is stand back and observe and behold these majestic creatures doing what they do. Truly magnificent beasts. The first person who made a sales pitch to me about cats was actually one of my physiology professors. This was someone at the time, I was like, I don't know if this guy and I are going to see eye to eye. Because at the time, I was like a powerlifter bodybuilder eating like 2 pounds of chicken a day and just meat. And this guy was a vegan marathoner. And I was like, I just don't know if we have that much in common. I was a dog guy. He was a cat guy. All down the list. Just polar opposite human beings. Oddly enough, I ended up becoming vegan for a while and then shifting to vegetarian. So he had some points that I would later catch on to. But nonetheless, his whole sales pitch with cats was, when we were learning physiology, he was like, if you actually like this stuff the way you claim to do, you need to have a cat in your home. Because the things they do, Lauren, athletically, they're just phenomenal, amazing creatures. It is absolutely insane how fast they are, how much they can jump. They are perfect killing machines, Lauren. So if you are interested in just observing the wonders of nature, cats are, frankly, the perfect killing machine.
Yeah, a cat bit me in the face when I was 5, and it kind of put me off cats for the
Okay, now
rest of
I'm
my
going to
life.
ask you a question.
Was it my fault? No, it wasn't. I was being perfectly nice.
No, that wasn't the question. My question was going to be, what did you do to deserve it?
That's the same question.
No, it's a fundamental...
I pet the cat.
No,
I was petting it was my neighbor's cat. I was petting it. It was in the sun. We were having a nice time together.
yeah.
And it lashed out inexplicably
And bit
and
your
bit me in the
face?
face. Right under my eye. I almost lost an eye thanks to a cat. And I will hold it against the species for eternity.
Yeah, so one very important thing that's not nitpicking or semantics is I didn't ask you if it was your fault. I asked what you did under the assumption it was your fault. So
Right.
so that's the key distinction there, because cats
Because
don't.
there was no doubt in your mind
Correct.
that it was my
Yes.
fault. Correct.
The fact that your face was close enough to be bitten is starting to lead me toward what you did to deserve this. You need to really have a healthy space between a cat and your face. Everyone knows this, Lauren. So if we ever have an opportunity where you and I are hanging out and there's a cat in our presence, I will show you the ropes.
I will avoid the cat.
No, you're missing out on so much. Basically, every positive thing there is to life, you're foregoing here. But one of these
I
days,
knew you before you transitioned.
that is true. And my life is better. It's richer for it. So one of these days I'll show you the ropes. What's really interesting though is that every cat, first of all, is highly dangerous. They're a killing machine, and also they have their own expectations. So we have two cats. One of them you have to very gently and slowly stroke on the forehead. That's what she likes. The other one wants you to like squish her, just like grab her and like put her in a blender, basically. If I treated one the other way and vice versa, they would both probably try to kill me. So it really is quite the art and the science of trying to engage with a cat and not be harmed. But I actually had the exact same experience as you. When I was a child, there was a cat in my neighborhood, and I went up to pet it the way I would pet a dog, and it scratched the shit out of me. And for like 10 years, I was like, I guess cats hate me and I'm afraid of them. And I wasn't afraid of them. I was just like, if I try to pet this cat, it's clearly going to harm me.
Right, so pass.
Well, we'll work on that. But Lauren, is there anything else we want to get to before we wrap up for the night? Oh, we were going to talk about coffee.
We were, because, there's a very interesting post that your morning coffee is wreaking havoc on your hormones if you don't eat with or before the morning coffee. So the idea that you would wake up and have a cup of coffee and then eat afterwards, that long term, this is going to have all of these deleterious effects. Did you get a chance to check out said post?
Yeah, well, first of all, someone said, you literally saved my life. I can't thank you enough for sharing all this information and knowledge. So before I get into it, I just kind of assume if it saved that person's life, it must be solid. Yeah. Going through it, there's a bunch to do about, coffee's, caffeine's effects on cortisol, effects on blood sugar and glycemic control, something to do with because of these, by the end of the week, your sleep is worse, your cravings are stronger, and your body is stuck in a stress cycle. And I guess they're saying that if you ate with it, that would not be the case. Is that kind of the takeaway here?
The proposed course of action is to wake up and hydrate with water / an adrenal cocktail. Immediate red flag.
Is that just adrenal glands ground up and made into some kind of extract? It's like an 1800s tonic.
Yeah, right. I'm sure it's something like lemon juice.
Yeah.
But doesn't specify. And then eat protein plus healthy fats for stable blood sugar, and then drink your coffee. And then you're going to have more energy, fewer cravings, and better sleep.
Yeah, the short version is, people try to get they try to dive into the details about caffeine as if it's this wild beast that needs to be tamed. Folks, it's not that serious. There's no reason to believe that eating would meaningfully impact the big picture elements of how your body responds to coffee. The only reason to eat if eat with your coffee or prior to your coffee, or take some kind of adrenal cocktail or do some kind of convoluted hydration thing, is if you feel better. Lauren, no, I accidentally liked this post. My credibility is My credibility is tanked, all because of you as I'm
Well,
clicking through this.
she did cite some references, so I went and checked them out. And lo and behold, they don't support what she's saying. Can you imagine that?
That's crazy. There's no way.
It's crazy.
That reminds me of back when a common belief among very scientific people was that you had to wait like 60 to 90 minutes before you had your coffee in the morning because it was going to prevent your afternoon crash. And then I
Right.
said, is there any paper that's ever linked this strategy or any other strategy in this genre of strategies to actual feelings of energy state later in the day? And of course, there's not. It was just a bunch of hand waving about like cortisol time curves for the morning awakening response, and just utter nonsense. And like, folks, here's the thing to keep in mind with coffee and caffeine. If you're going to lock yourself into some convoluted protocol, you can, speculate all you want about these mechanisms and draw out the caffeine comes in and this spikes and this goes down and it happens over this precise time course. And then, I don't know, 5 to 7 days later, throw all of it away because your body habituates to the caffeine and all that stuff changes anyway. And so it kind of kills me when people get all worked up about these hyper specific and time sensitive protocols, because it's like, dude, if you just drink coffee daily for the next 7 days, your body's going to start responding to it like the boy who cried wolf and just go, oh, really? Caffeine again? Okay, whatever you say. So yeah, the good news is you don't have to worry about it. The good news also is when it comes to caffeine and what to eat with it, what to drink with it, when to have it, how to sequence this combination of things, I think this is the most like placebo oriented set of protocols I've ever seen in my life. Like when you tell somebody to do something slightly different with their caffeine, they automatically will rave about it of like, oh my God, after I actually had that coffee, I felt alert. And it's like, yeah, you felt alert because you had caffeine and, and you're excited about it because you did something different. So it's kind of just like caffeine still exists, but now you've wrapped it into some kind of protocol and you feel some kind of excitement and enthusiasm about it. But like at the end of the day, essentially you're placeboing yourself into saying like, that buzz I got from having a well-known stimulant, I don't believe I've ever felt that before. It's like
When you
kind of
say,
do.
just go 2 months with no caffeine and then see how you feel after that. And it's like, yeah, you feel amazing because you come back, you have that first cup of coffee and you are on cloud nine because you just resensitized yourself.
Yeah, so this one of these things, this gets into your wheelhouse. It says when your blood sugar is unstable and cortisol stays high, presumably because you accidentally drank your coffee the wrong way, it says progesterone drops, worsening PMS period symptoms and fertility. Your estrogen metabolism gets disrupted, leading to mood swings, bloating, and irregular cycles. So, Lauren, as a female physiology expert, are you concerned about this? Is this something that keeps you up at night?
Well, full transparency, this account posts a whole lot of misinformation about cycle syncing. So this is very on brand for this individual to do all of
Oh,
this hormone fear mongering. But somebody else sent it to me because I've chosen to, remove these types of posts from my life to the extent that I'm able to, which is not very well. We don't get hormonal dysregulation or infertility based on acute changes in how we eat or when we eat or how we train or when we train. I don't know how to make it any clearer than that.
could you imagine how hard it would be to
It
be a
would be a
physician if
disaster.
if someone came in and they're like, "Hey, bad news, like my sex hormones are completely out of whack," and they were like, "Okay, walk me through what do you do to hydrate before your coffee in the morning?" Like if there was that level of granularity between like if the human body were so finely tuned and fragile a violin that these small little tweaks and ordering of what you're doing mattered, like, oh man, being a physician would be literally impossible. You go to the doctor and they'd
It's
be like,
also all of this conversation about, what you do when you wake up in the morning. It acts like the body just sort of erases and resets overnight. And, you have nothing in your system, right? So if you were to go wake up and have a cup of coffee, or wake up and go to the gym, like, do we no longer have any stored glycogen from what we ate yesterday? Are we completely on empty and now, we're starting over? And then the decision that we make to eat or not eat now, and then exercise 10 minutes later, are we even using the fuel from that meal? Look, this whole like hour by hour sort of misconception about how digestion and nutrient absorption and fuel utilization works is just mind-boggling to me, because it makes people so hyper focused on things that don't matter at all.
Lauren, you're making an ass of yourself, because you said these people act like hormones just reset, every night. One of the captions in this exact post says, your hormones don't just reset overnight. But then she says, literally next words, how you start your morning dictates everything from energy to metabolism to how well your body can handle stress. So she basically said they don't restart every night, idiot. They restart every morning. I love it. That's fantastic. So she says, start with food first, then caffeine. Your hormones will thank you. So who knows? We'll have to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into the clinical trials to get to the bottom of this.
Well, you do this for 21 days, and I'll bounce up and down and swing my arms for 21 days. And then we'll circle back and talk about how life-changing this was.
I look forward to it. I could use a good change of life, so this will be fantastic. All right, folks. That does it for this episode of Front Page Fitness. As always, thanks so much for listening. If you want to support the show, make sure that you like, rate, subscribe, review, share it with a friend. Recruit as many people as you can to join the Front Page Fitness Army. We very much appreciate it. And we will see you next week with another episode.